Hey, everybody, my name is Justin Rayfield. I'm a sales director here at Microsoft that manage a team across the country. We cover big accounts and some small ones and medium ones too, but mostly larger accounts. And we're really focused on helping customers transform their businesses, obviously through Microsoft's technology. And I think this podcast, our goal is to give some insights, right? And my goal is to give some insights and some takes that I've been learning from a leader perspective, and how work is transforming from a leadership perspective. And hopefully you'll hear some of those takes in the episodes to come.
And hey everyone, Grant Earl here. I'm a principal Copilot technical specialist here at Microsoft, focused on all of our AI technologies as they pertain to the workplace. And so Justin and I have a great show for you today, all about AI at work and how learning and development are being affected like everything else.
Yeah. So Grant, you and I, we both recently just went through some training at Microsoft, which is probably our first experience. I've been here for almost 13 years. It's definitely my first experience where I was talking to an AI avatar. And it was talking back in a dynamic way, and then it evaluated us as part of our AI skilling. And I don't know about you, man, but I felt like the training was pretty cool in terms of typically we would have to schedule a call with somebody to do like a pitch to, and then this person would then rate it, and then it was a big pain because you had to schedule it all. But now it all happened with AI, and I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. I've got more nuanced take on it, but what was your initial impression? Because I think you also had to do it too.
Absolutely, yeah, and I've been here maybe just a hair longer than you, and it was, for me, it was like a milepost that I'll always remember, because it was the first time, like you said, that AI has been asked to judge employees directly, to say to my leadership, yes, Grant is ready, Grant passed, yes, or no, Grant is not worthy, Grant does not get the green check mark.
Don't be that hard on
yourself. Grant has to retake this,
Yeah. No, that is true. I didn't, I guess I didn't really think as introspectively about it as you, but you're correct, right? Like this is definitely the first time that, that AI has done that. And obviously every person who works in any company is used to having to take and pass tests, for whatever, right? Probably a quarterly or, once or twice a year to make sure that they know, core functions for their job or for their company. But it's never been like a dynamic type of conversation scenario, and the conversation would change on the fly, which I thought was pretty wild.
Yeah. For me, it was interesting to see, like, one of my first impressions was, even before I realized that this was AI pitch training, was that plastered across the very front was not approved by the Netherlands Works Council. We all know that
I saw that. I was like, what? Yeah.
The works councils in Europe are very strict with the overreach, as they see it, of AI and privacy and everything else. And it was interesting. I'd never seen one from the Dutch, but usually it's Germany that has these blockers. But it's just part of the world now is understanding AI and how it sort of plays into work.
It did occur to me while I was doing the training that I was like, wow, I wonder if like this is being recorded, and they're able to sort of see, not from a place of paranoia, but like, can the company derive insights into common patterns of answering these questions?
Yeah.
And can that give us as a company some insights into how like others view the product? Like if the Microsoft employees are all saying this and they're struggling with this one aspect, then surely the public is probably also confused about something. I don't know, but I mean, like that's that's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, let me sort of talk about what surprised me the most about the training was when I talked to my team about this too. I was talking to some other sales managers too about it, which is that the training, if you take it seriously and you're in sort of like a stand and deliver modality where you're trying to deliver content as if you were talking to a real person, if you take it seriously, it's very hard to pass. Okay. It's very hard to pass because it's still like, it still clearly had a very set criteria, okay? And like sometimes you would get into this comfort, like, hey, I'm talking to a person. But if I was talking to a person, I know that sometimes if I just look somebody deeply in the eye and like you emphasize certain words, like it would reassure them about something.
Right.
And like I was surprised that like I fell into that thing, like I was talking to a person and I would try to do that, but the AI doesn't care. The AI is like, hey, are you saying A, B, and C, and are you doing like number 1 and number 2, number 3? So like you get sort of trapped into like, hey, I'm actually talking to a person, but the reality is you're not. I don't know. That surprised me because I was like, man, why am I failing this thing? And it's like, wait, I also have to remember I'm still talking to a computer that with a grid
Right.
rubric.
Exactly. And that brings me back to what you said earlier. Years ago when we did this pitch perfect training, it was in
Yeah, I
front
love
of a
that training.
person and it
Yeah.
was in front of a senior leader. I
Mm.
remember doing this in front of Tyler
Yeah.
Bryson
Oh,
going
wow.
back a long
Yeah.
time. And he was like, okay, give me the pitch. And, the anxiety level was a lot higher. So
Yes.
with this training, it lowered the anxiety, but
Did.
it sort of motivated me to figure out how to defeat the AI
Yes.
almost.
Yeah. It
So
was definitely
using
became
AI
gamified.
to defeat AI.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. The other thing that
Yeah.
that I remembered as a technologist is that this is the early days. Like we are in the very early days of AI at work, and what this technology is going to be a year, 3 years, 7 years from now is going to be much more intelligent. And it's not just going to be looking for patterns in speech and recognizing certain keywords. It's going to be looking for maybe tone. It's going to be looking for, I think, algorithmically, is my workforce at a larger scale having those challenges like you called out, Justin? Like,
Are they
how can
confident?
we,
Right.
yeah,
So I guess that brings us to another good point of discussion, which is like, how do you see, if you sort of close your eyes and, we fast forward to, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, and we assume that like it's so much better, right? You can sense all the nuances in how we talk. It's much more fluid and dynamic. And this AI sort of avatar for having role play presentation skills exams is a lot better. Like, how do you think that's going to change you like people in your role? Like are you going to be are you guys? I assume it's going to make us all better, right? That's the idea.
oh
But
yeah.
like how do you think it would make you better, right? I'm curious. Like,
Well, I
how do
think
you think it would
that
make people like you better?
yeah. So I think that making a technologist a better salesperson is always a challenge because if you're a really good
Yeah,
technologist, you're generally not a great like salesperson. Finding that perfect mix
yeah,
is difficult and a skill. My salesmanship has always been something that I've had to work on a lot more than my
yeah.
passion and skill with technology.
But,
So
but you know why that is though? It's because technologists spend a lot of time not talking to people, not to
right,
be offensive, right? But
yeah,
you guys spend a lot of time studying and looking at this.
right,
You have fewer repetitions doing the.
right.
So maybe that's what this is going to solve for you, right?
Sure, yeah,
Um,
and I think across the spectrum of learning in society,
mhm,
from primary school all
mhm,
the way up to
mhm,
PhD and into the workforce, AI is going to provide a lot of opportunities for tutoring, for
mhm,
mentorship.
mhm.
Like what we see today that you and I are talking about is again just
Yeah,
a very
just a
early
small, just the
glimpse.
evaluation piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Mm,
maybe next year it'll be more of a mentorship where they say, "All right, Grant, the beginning of your talk track was great, but then you kind of trailed off and started
mm,
saying stuff that was completely unrelated to my business. So
mm,
why don't you try it again in this way, right?
mm.
This time it was very much just like
Yeah, pass,
listening,
fail, do it again. Yeah.
listening for a pattern, and if you didn't
Mhm.
match the pattern or mix of
Yeah.
product or things,
Yeah.
then fail. So I
The
think it's
yeah,
going to
that's
get a lot
great.
better.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, so first of all, I 100% agree. I mean, no salesperson is perfect, by the way. And anybody can benefit from free repetitions in a setting as close as possible to the competition, right? Like, but before I do this triathlon in a week and a half, right? Like, I'm gonna put on all my gear and do everything as if I'm in the real thing, right? And so, if you're able to do that on demand, in a realistic manner, like everyone is gonna be better in front of real humans. But it only really works. You only get the benefit if the AI practice sessions or tutoring or whatever is as close to being a human as possible. Um,
Exactly.
this idea of mentorship is really interesting. So like I just hired somebody, and he's awesome and he's ramping super quickly. But I think a lot of companies that I work with, maybe a company I currently work in, I would say that sometimes our onboarding process isn't necessarily the
Mhm.
best, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I'd be excited to see how this improves onboarding.
Right.
But there's also risk, right? Like I don't know if I would want to like completely absolve human responsibility of onboarding a new employee
Hmm.
because a lot of it's about culture.
Hmm.
And I don't know how, like I don't think an AI can transmit culture to somebody as much as a human
No.
can, because you still know in the back of
No.
your mind it's a computer, right?
Right,
Um,
exactly. I think I've always loved the Terminator movies,
oh
and I
yeah.
think right now we're seeing like maybe a little earlier than the T-800. Like you can definitely tell that it's a
Mhm.
robot that's been sent
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to do
That's
something.
right.
It has some of the hallmarks of humans.
Mhm.
It sort of looks like or sounds
But
like a
still
human, but
mechanical.
you can pick
Yeah,
it out. But
yeah.
in a few more years, because the building blocks are there,
Mm.
there's text to speech, there's text to video, there's agentic AI capabilities. All of the building blocks are there.
It's fast too, right? Like it was fast, very fast. So I didn't feel like I had to like say something and then wait, look at my watch for it to go on to the next question.
Right. It thought about it, and gave you a response very quickly. So yeah, I think that we'll see a personality, like a mentor, sort of an agent, a development, maybe an L&D agent that will help deliver and coach. Not without human support for a long time, but you know, it'll provide a lot more.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned sort of like AI as a coach for learning, because I meant like I did experiment, right? Like I turned on Copilot on my phone, right? And me and Copilot both started to have a conversation with the AI avatar as a coworker, right? Which is exactly like the pitch that we use, which is, hey, think of AI as a teammate. And that was pretty wild, right? Because I would be like, oh yeah, in this point, and then Copilot, the consumer voice app, would say, and also there's this other point, and then I would tell, okay, stop now, I've got this. But which gets me to the second point of learning in AI. And I know there's this article in the New Yorker that came out a week or two ago. It's all the buzz about how there's massive cheating in higher education due to artificial intelligence, and how it's essentially potentially weakening people's intellectual abilities, right? And limiting your ability to know and perform on the fly. I don't know. I mean, what's your personal thoughts about how, like, do you think AI could actually limit your ability to perform functionally?
No, I think that that article set off this whole firestorm, and I think part of that is
yes,
you're having one of those work from home moments.
Yeah, I don't know who this is. It's my coworker. But keep going.
Me.
I'll just move my head so. Okay, keep going. Yes.
So part of this is the world adapting, and I think it's going to happen at a different pace for academia than it is in the workplace. But the workforce adapting to AI just like academia must, and students must, and students are already adapting, and they're very good at finding ways to get their work done faster, which is human nature, right? Yeah. So what's lacking is that academia has not kept up with, as is usually the case, they're not keeping up with industry.
Yeah.
So we'll see them catch up at a slower pace, I feel like, but we can't blame the students for
using the common tools that are available, right?
Trying to innovate. I remember when I was taking computer science courses in college and then working in industry at the same time, the workplace was experimenting with these new technologies that there wouldn't be curriculum in my CS department that matched that for 5 or 10 more years. Right. So academia is always playing catch up, I feel like.
I mean, which is interesting. I think the other thing that comes to my mind is, our learning programs in corporate settings playing catch up as well. I don't know. I think they are, a bit, because if you look at this training we just did, the back and forth that we went through is probably not as good as what you can get right now in a commercial. ChatGPT, Grok, like the verbal back and forth on like the leading edge models is amazing. But like we're not far behind.
No, for a 50-year-old company, we're doing pretty well. But I think most 50-year-old companies, decades-old companies, are still playing catch up. Unless you're a digital native company, your process, your leadership is still trying to wrap their heads around how AI is going to impact what they do across all different levels.
When I talk to companies, sort of like sales leaders about their view of AI in their companies, it's always like, hey, how can artificial intelligence make like my bottom 50%, whatever, bottom quarter, bottom half employees as effective as my top quarter or my top third. And we usually think about it in terms of like productivity gains, right? Efficiency in the tools and surfacing insights and things like that. But we, recently we haven't really talked about, learning, right? And how can AI assist in the skilling process, right? Like, because it can improve, right? Like if you can get a whole bunch of free reps, on a sales conversation on demand, and you don't have to schedule it with your boss, like, hey, like typically you would say, hey, sales manager, like I want to role play this scenario with you and think through, which is great, right? A manager should be a coach, right? Because he or she has a ton of experience and should be able. But like, look, at the end of the day, you've got X number of direct reports, and maybe their call is in 30 minutes, and they don't have time to talk to you, right? So like, hey, can I dial up customer persona AI, give it a 15-second spiel on who they are, what the scenario is, and then just go back and forth, like that's pretty helpful.
100%. Yeah, just providing these experiences to your employees, like these innovative ways for them to learn. But on the other hand, and I'm interested to know what you think about this as a leader. I think that applying AI to the insights that these systems can provide as well to identify opportunities to improve the learning process and improve where we're addressing the training. I think that might also be pretty valuable too.
Gosh, yeah, I mean, using AI to identify opportunities to improve. Yes. So like if I, as a leader, right? So I manage a book of business. If you manage, whatever sort of business function, and you're able to sort of derive insights about, hey, where our strengths and weaknesses, and predict those strengths and weaknesses in the future based off whatever trends for whatever business process, then you could then dynamically adjust. And this gets to sort of personalized learning. You can dynamically adjust the content that Grant Earl, individual, sales engineer, needs to know based off of where you're seeing people struggle in the business to deliver results. Like that's pretty wild, right? Like, I mean, how often is it that I don't know about you, man, but like so often I have to do training requirements that have nothing to do with my actual job. So I would be thrilled to have personalized learning that actually we know is like micro-targeted to a business result, because we know people stink at doing X, Y, and Z.
Right. Because every one of your people, like they have a unique mix of
everyone's got the strengths,
right? But then also taking into account what they want to do and what their dreams and next steps maybe after this role are, and tailoring their learning to that as well. So having AI kind of build that whole plan.
Dude, I mean, I think about it right now, like right now, we rolled out memory and Copilot and memory, ChatGPT has memory, and like all AIs now have memory, right? I know it's sort of rolling out the consumer version, in waves, but like, you're right. If you're able to tell your AI coach, like imagine you start at Microsoft or start anywhere, and they give you your laptop, and they also issue you your HAL, right? Your AI, like here's your personal AI assist buddy, HAL, or there's some video game where you've got like your AI buddy on your arm. Yeah.
HAL, like the murderous one from 2001.
Yeah, but not murderous though.
Okay.
Friendly version of it.
All right, good. I brought up the T800, and you're bringing up HAL. We got to find something
happier, and but that is also part of the problem. I think culturally, like Hollywood doesn't gravitate towards like the nice AI that benefits
humanity,
the friendly AI that helps you. Really, it's always, although maybe Star Wars. I was watching Andor, and they took like the death robot from in Andor, and they made it like a friendly, funny one. And so Star Wars might be a better. But anyways, my point being, you start at Microsoft, and you have your AI, and you start, maybe you have a meeting where you meet with your AI learning agent, and you describe it, you tell it like where you want to be in a year, and where you think your strengths and weaknesses are, and then it goes off and it looks at like the blueprint of training and education for your role and who you are, and it adjusts it based off that, and then it changes it.
I think along those lines, like, we're thinking about how AI is going to change things, and maybe learning and development isn't a place that I go to do training anymore. Maybe it's integrated into the whole flow of work. Like I have this AI mentor that's there, and it's giving me advice, or it's saying, hey, here's some coaching. Do you want to practice this pitch? And maybe that's something that you get credit for because it's part of your industry mix.
I like it. And you can gamify it, right? So as a leader, I'd be like, this is awesome, right? Like we can make it like a little bit of a competition, and every week, you could reward people for, hey, this week, this team, had 1,000 points in dynamic learning. And
maybe and just thinking about the works councils out there, this probably wouldn't play well with them, but maybe it's listening and looking at meeting transcripts, and it's looking at what you do every day, and you get credit in the normal course of your work for having a great customer conversation that hits on all of these points. And again, learning isn't this place that you have to go to spend 4 hours doing training anymore. It's just, okay, Grant has mastered this, obviously, so he doesn't need to take this class anymore, right? So,
I think about a little bit here. I'm sure we have to wrap up here pretty soon, but earlier in the conversation, you mentioned Pitch Perfect. So I remember this, right? This was a thing where it was like, hey, we have this new content. I forget what it was, but we all learn new stuff, and you have to like pitch this thing. It's probably like the cloud. Like, what's your cloud pitch?
What is the cloud? Yeah.
What is the cloud? Explain PaaS and SaaS, and I asked and then you get assigned somebody. And I remember it clearly because I too was very like, nervous, and I prepped a lot and I learned a lot. And so I thought the training was actually really good because it was a forcing function for me. And I took it sort of from a high threat standpoint, right? If learning, every company can approach this differently. And certainly you could say, hey, look, if you don't pass this training and you don't, if you don't do these things and you don't pass all this stuff, like you're out or whatever, make it high threat. But I think it could also reduce the anxiety level,
Absolutely.
if it's within the flow of work, and if the company establishes it with some transparency and safety net, right? Where you're like, hey, even if you flub this 1,000 times, like we're still happy because you took it 1,000 times.
Right.
I don't know. So
no, I think that's
overall,
great. And
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. I feel like, again, we're like trying to figure out what the impact of all this is going to be. And I feel like we're looking through this little pinhole and we're seeing a little bit of what it's going to be, but it's just, I mean, everything's going to be different a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And it's fun to imagine what that's going to be like. And
it's super fun, right? Like,
we're just seeing the initial transformation here. So I'm glad we were able to sort of chat about how that's impacting us and how this traditional learning is turning into AI-driven learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel privileged, obviously, to have the opportunity to talk with you about it, and hopefully to folks in other industries who are contemplating, if you're watching this or listening to this and you're thinking about, how do we use AI in our own training, or how do we ensure that our employees aren't all cheating with AI? I would encourage you to think really sort of expansively about the potential value of artificial intelligence from a learning and skilling perspective for your employees, because it could truly make them a lot better, a lot faster than what we've been doing historically. So I'm looking forward to our guest, by the way. So our guest is going to be awesome. She is in charge of leveraging AI within Microsoft for learning. So she's sort of like she's actually writing a white paper on this topic. So we'll be back in a moment with that. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
So this is part 1 of 2, I guess, right?
Yes, it is. Yep. Part 1 of 2.
All right.
So this is our new format, folks, where we'll do a little bit of a, grab like mailbag. We'll do an AI mailbag conversation. And then the second part will be our interview on the same topic with somebody from the outside. So yeah, thanks a lot, Grant. We'll talk in a few minutes.
Thanks a lot, Justin. Yep. Talk to you soon.